Hi, welcome back to Waxing On Wednesday, Classic Rock. And I promised you a special Beatles album. And this turns out to be my very first Beatles album from the early 60s, first album I'd ever purchased of the Beatles. And it's Long Tall Sally. Now, what makes this unique, and I didn't know this at the time, I didn't know this until I was just researching it recently, and so much information on the internet that really helps us out. This album was released by Capitol Records only in Canada. There was another album that came out about the same time, and I ended up thinking I was buying this one when it came out on CDs because my original copy of this disappeared in a move in about the late 60s. I'd moved from one town to another, and somewhere the album disappeared. Hadn't seen it. When CDs came around, I found what I thought was the same album on CD, and I picked it up because it really was one I really liked, and it was the Beatles' second album. Looks strikingly familiar to Long Tall Sally, doesn't it? Except different title. Same photos. See, the back of it is kind of what I remember as well. Same kind of photos. Now, there wasn't anything with this, same way with the album at that time. Back in the early 60s, basically you got the record in the sleeve and that was it. There wasn't a lot of extras with it. But let's just go back. Long Tall Sally. Again, this was the last album that Canada had unique from Capitol Records. After this album, Capitol released the same in all of North America. The US and Canadian albums were the same, but for some reason at this point, they were releasing a different version than they released in the United States. Now, here's the track listing, and you'll see the difference here in a minute. This is from Long Tall Sally. Number one song, I Want to Hold Your Hand. 2, I Saw Her Standing There. So these are the two big hits in the early 60s for them. You've Really Got a Hold on Me. Devil in Her Heart. Roll Over Beethoven, the Chuck Berry hit. And Misery, that's side 1. Side 2, Long Tall Sally, Little Richard in there. I Call Your Name, Please Mr. Postman, This Boy, I'll Get You, and You Can't Do That. Now, let's take a look at Beatles' second album. The set list is a little bit different on here. I'm just going to go to another sheet that's easier to read because it is so small on the CD. This one, a little more R&B, more cover tunes, less of the Beatles. So we're looking at Beatles' second album, Roll Over Beethoven. Well, that's the same. Thank You Girl, Smokey Robinson's You Really Got a Hold on Me, Devil in Her Heart, Money, That's What I Want. And I believe that was on the other one as well. Oh, no, I'm not seeing it, so here's a new tune for me. And You Can't Do That. Side 2 of this one was Long Tall Sally, I Call Your Name, Please Mr. Postman, I'll Get You, and She Loves You. Okay, so a couple of tunes missing. We're missing Want to Hold Your Hand, I Saw Her Standing There. We picked up She Loves You. We picked up Money. Now, why they did the same album cover, why they did different track listings, I don't know. Why was Capitol releasing only a special version for Canada that's not the same as the US? So many questions in there. It was a great album, Long Tall Sally. And again, it was my first Beatles album. It was really, when Beatlemania just starting to break, it was one I always enjoyed. Like I say, I lost it for a while and we kind of moved on to other things. We got into the White Album, got into Let It Be, Abbey Road, those kind of things. And I kind of lost track of the early Beatles till CDs came along, and I got a shot at this one again because you never saw it in the record stores very often, but a different version. Now, if you're looking for the album, I couldn't find it on the streaming network. You might find copies of this. I don't know if you're going to find many copies of the Long Tall Sally. Again, if it strictly was a Canadian album, you might find them in not even discount bins now, because I don't think we have record stores at this point, right? You're going to find them at thrift stores, yard sales, things like that. You might be able to grab a copy because it was unique in being specifically just for that country. Anyways, great album, early Beatles, you can't go wrong with the Beatles anytime. This may be the version you get, and if you do, it's still a great version. This is one I listen to a lot now because I can't get Long Tall Sally, but it's still a lot of the same great tunes, a lot of the spirit of the era. So that's it for Wednesday. The Beatles, Long Tall Sally, or the second album. Check it out. We'll see you on Friday. Till then, everybody take care. Stay safe. Thanks for stopping by.